slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever...
Hey team, I know a lot of you out there deal with nerves and staying as relaxed as you can prior to your races, and so I wanted to make a video on how to overcome doubt as a runner. And I think it's normal to have that feeling of the unknown prior to the start of your races. I think one of the biggest ways to overcome doubt as a runner is to always make sure, and I preach this all the time, always make sure you make training the most difficult part of your preparation. Because if you throw everything you possibly can at yourself, in whether that's through tempo training, tempo runs, your hill workouts, your track sessions, especially those long runs, because I think the long run overall is probably the most difficult workout that we do as middle to long distance runners. If you truly take yourself to the point of no return in terms of training and taking yourself out, getting outside of your comfort zone and doing that on a regular basis, when it comes time to taper and it comes time to race, you're going to be much more confident in yourself, because again, you've trained properly, you've done a longer build-up, and I think too, when you're relaxed, when you're confident in yourself, when you're loose, when you're not tense, most of the time you perform at a much higher level. And I think if you look at the top middle to long distance runners, a lot of these athletes, they look totally relaxed at the start of their races. Now there are some that are very, very, locked in and very zeroed in and look very serious as well. But in most cases, this is most of the time in the middle to long distance races, especially long distance runners, if you look at marathoners, you look at the great athletes, Paul Tergat, Haile Gebrselassie, Kenenisa Bekele, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, these types of athletes are very relaxed at the start of their races, because they have thrown everything at themselves in their training. So I think in terms of how to overcome doubt as a runner, you really have to you have to rely on your training. You have to rely on what you've done to prepare for your main race, and really be as confident as you can, be as loose and relaxed as you can prior to the start of your races. Because again, you can look to your left and you look to your right, you're going to see a lot of very tense, very very uneasy, the uneasy feeling on these athletes' faces. And again, if you've done everything, if you've done your homework and training, you've really pushed yourself to the limit, both mentally and physically in training, your chances of success are going to be much higher versus the athletes that are very tense, that are worried, that are overanalyzing. And I think too, it's tough at times to not analyze pre-race what you're going to do in the race. I think that's important to visualize. That's why I always preach mental training, to make sure that you're not only training the body, but you're also training the mind to prepare to do what it is that you're wanting to do in the race. And so I think a lot of athletes they place all their focus on physical training, and they don't do any mental training. They don't do any mental rehearsal, seeing themselves crossing the finish line with their goal time on the clock. So I think to overcome doubt as a runner, if you can combine both your physical training, but also start spending 10 to 15 minutes daily visualizing yourself passing runners, running relaxed, being confident, seeing yourself, if you feel like and obviously consciously telling yourself to consciously calm down, to stay relaxed. If you start feeling your muscles tensing in workouts, make those corrections in training. Loosen up your shoulders. If your shoulders are rising, you can work on your form. That's also why we get beyond just running easy, relaxed running. Easy, relaxed aerobic running is very important to not only build endurance, to build those capillary beds, and obviously build that aerobic foundation that we need as runners to run at faster paces. But if you can consciously tell yourself to stay relaxed, even when you're running, not only running fast, but also running slow, you can help to improve your form, okay? I think doubt is something that is normal. I think a lot of people from time to time doubt their abilities. They doubt what they can do. Maybe they feel like they're too young to run a specific time, or they're too old to run a specific time. Maybe they feel like their best running is past them. But again, really, it comes down to that motivation. What's getting you out the door on a daily basis, and what are you willing to do, and how long are you willing to work in order to get what you want? A lot of times we set goals for ourselves that are too lenient, and other times we set goals for ourselves that are far too aggressive. And sometimes we misjudge the amount of time that's really going to take for us in order to achieve the specific goal that we're going for. Okay, for an athlete, let's say, a 3:45 marathoner, he or she may have a goal of breaking 3 hours one day. Trying to do that in a matter of 12 weeks is a pretty big ask, versus trying to do that in, say, 3 to 4 years. So I think overcoming doubt I think you can take a lot of stress off yourself if you have more of a long range vision. You have a stronger belief in delayed gratification, because who doesn't want quick results? It's very normal to want quick results in the sport, and pretty much anything else we do. I mean, who doesn't want to have a higher salary? There's some people that want to make more money. There's people that want to drop 15 pounds in 2 weeks, where really it might take a few months to do that. Or somebody that's trying to run, maybe they're a 50-minute 10K runner, and they're wanting to run 39:59 and break 40 minutes. That could take several months, but in most cases that could take several years. So really, you can take a lot more stress off of yourself and lessen the amount of doubt that you're feeling if you really just focus on daily training and staying consistent with that training, and allotting sufficient time for your body to adapt to each specific workout that you're throwing at yourself, and not rushing the process and saying, hey, I'm going to do, say, a 4 to 5 month block of training. I'm going to do the very best that I can. I'm going to aim for this specific time, but if I don't achieve this specific time, then I'm going to make some initial further steps, a plan B, a plan C, to eventually get to that goal, because that's the overall mission. We want to achieve what we're aiming for and eventually get to that goal, whether it takes 6 months or whether it takes 6 years or 10 years. I mean, really the athletes that succeed in the sport, they do have and I know from experience, I've been doing this, I've been running for about 34 years now. I started running when I was 15, and I'm 48 now. I've found an enjoyment for what I'm doing, and I've had the willingness to put in the work for several years, several decades now. And a lot of athletes, that friends of mine over the years, they quit many years ago. And not necessarily they quit, they just found, they still, a lot of them still do jog for overall fitness, but they really didn't. They shifted their goals from racing in high school and college to other avenues. It was business. I have several friends in business. Other friends that just said, hey, I really don't want to continue to train like this and push my body. But this is a sport where you can get great results even in your 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, it just depends on what it is you're wanting to do. So I think if you find this love of running, and obviously most of you who watch these videos of mine have a high level of fitness, a high level of motivation and drive, and enthusiasm for what you're doing, your chances of dealing with doubt are going to be somewhat less than the athletes that are just kind of interested in this. They're not fully 100% committed to excellence. I mean, there's a major difference between being good and being great. And being great requires you to spend much longer periods of time doing this in order to get to a point where you've kind of systemized your process to the point where training and getting in better fitness and running at faster paces becomes automatic, because again, you've stayed consistent, you've really stayed focused on your training. And I think too, as I mentioned earlier, if you stay relaxed in your races, in training, and especially in your races and prior to the start of your races, you're going to be a lot more loose. You're going to be a lot more confident in what you're doing, and the amount of doubt that your experience is going to be much less, because you're going to be so much more confident in yourself because of what you've done in training. You've pushed yourself to the limits in training, and then you've done a strategic taper leading into your goal race where you're much more rested. You didn't start dropping your intensity and volume 3 to 4 weeks out. You continue to keep your intensity high up until about 10 days out from your race. Then you started strategically lessening the amount of volume and intensity and allotted yourself enough time to recover from the hard training that you're doing. So again, then your confidence is much more high, because again, you've had a great build-up. You've focused more on a longer build-up versus a shorter build-up. And you're going to run much more confident and much more relaxed because you have much less tension, both mentally and physically, in your body. So I hope that makes sense in terms of how to overcome doubt as a runner. If you have any other questions, anything else that's on your mind, feel free to leave me a comment below. I'll reach back out to you and respond. And definitely go to RunDreamAchieve.com. There's a lot of resources there that I've created for athletes, both beginner and to elite level athletes, that I'm certain will definitely help you get to the next level when you're training and racing. So thanks so much for your support. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.